So now let's begin with creation of our React project. We are going to create an e-store. I'll say npx create react app, and I'll just give the name e-store, and I'll press enter. Now this is going to take some time depending on your system's configuration. The moment you get this message, happy hacking, that means your project is ready. So now you can see on the left hand side we have the folder e-store, and there are respective files created. The src folder is important. You already know the structure. So now we are going to begin with the design. So first of all, I'll reopen this particular folder called e-store. So I'll change my current folder from e-commerce to e-store, and let us just execute the created project. So I'll say yarn start. So here is the output. Now you can see that we did not write a single line of code and this project is created. So now we are going to start making changes in app.js. When you are working with a framework like React, that means you have to design components. So it is always a component based architecture. But here, first we will begin with the app.js. Gradually we'll start making the changes to the current file, that is app.js, and eventually we'll put into more meaningful components. So let's first of all begin with a kind of header section. Before we begin with the header in the app.js, let me also show you that you need to include the Bootstrap, which is the core CSS we have used to make it responsive and attractive as well. Here is the CDN which you can copy, and to configure this CDN you go into the public folder and there is an index.html. This is where you attach all your CDNs. So you just paste that here, save it, and that is done. Alright, so now I'm clearing all the code we have in the app.js. Now I will begin with the header. So these are the few Bootstrap classes I'm going to use. Now let's go to app.css, and here I'm going to attach the header related CSS. So I'm going to create a class called header, and I'm writing few settings inside this. Now I'm creating a search box. So for that, here is the division, and I'm going to use the Bootstrap core input elements and the classes for creating the search box. Now I'll say input type is equal to text. The class I'm going to apply in this is the form control class. Now let me just save and refresh. Now you see that the text box is appearing. Now let's also add a search icon at the end of the text box. So I'm going to use the division for the search icon, and inside that I'm going to add a button, and there will be a class name btn light. btn light, so there is a light color on this button. Let me also remind you that the input group append class which I have given will add that element to another element. That is, in our case, it's going to be the text box. And here I'm going to put an icon. I is the element which will allow us to put an icon. And I have given the class name. FA is basically for font awesome. So font awesome dash search is the class to show the search icon. So now we can also bring the font awesome CDN here, which is required. So I'm going to the specific link. Let me just copy this CDN and I'm going to paste it inside the index.html. Here it is. And I'm going to add the href and the font awesome path. Now you see that the icon is getting displayed here. The placement is still remaining, so let's work on that now. Now the only thing remaining is the placement of this search button. So let me do that as well. I need to just rearrange the structure of the division. And there it is. Let's just roll over the mouse to see the effect of the button. So now you see that it is arranged. Let's change the color. Now this looks more prominent. So now I'm going to add a drop down in the beginning of this search text box, the way you see normally on e-commerce site, where if you have a categories, then you can see it. So the drop down will also have category in our case. So for that, I'm going to use the select, but with a specific formatting. So let's add a division. So prepend is another class which helps you to add before the or at the beginning of the element. So now let's add some text to this drop down. Eventually this drop down will be filled dynamically. It will be getting the data, that is the category data, from tables. But at the moment, at least we can fix few categories here. So now we have few fixed categories, and here is the drop down. You see that the values are appearing here. Now let's fine tune the appearance, that is the design of this drop down, by giving respective CSS, that is. So now you see that the appearance is better than what we started. Now this headers bar will also have login and registration related links. So let's add those as well. So for login, we are using a term called sign in, and for registration, we'll say sign up. So we have two links here. Now let's give some CSS for the sign in and sign up options. I'll just change the text of sign in and sign up. Now let's apply the CSS related to these two links. Now let's also change the font color of sign in and sign up. So we'll make it white. So now I'm going to add one more icon on the header component, and that is the favorite icon. And after that, I'll add the shopping cart icon. So let's begin with the favorite icon. So I'm going to add the list items here, where the first item will be the favorite icon, which will have a heart icon. Now you see that there is a heart displaying. Of course, the color is to be changed. Let's also add the shopping cart icon. We add the shopping cart. So two icons we have. Let's apply some CSS. So I'm going to apply a class called widget. And now let's define the widget class in the app.css. So now you see that the moment I give color white, it has started appearing in a more prominent way. Let's also apply some margin. So now here is the almost ready header. This is something which we have placed in app.js, which is not a correct approach. So we should have respective folders and we should design the components. So in the next section, we are going to convert the same code which we have placed in the app.js inside a separate component.